he lie under oath? Another member of President Trump's cabinet is under growing scrutiny tonight over purported contacts with Russia.
And tonight, U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is now recusing himself from any Department of Justice investigation into Russian meddling into the presidential campaign. KCOT political reporter Bryan joins us now with more of the fallout from Sessions' own meetings with Russia's ambassador before being sworn in.
Yeah, this is important, but it's still kind of the warm-up round. You know, the real issue is the collusion, which hasn't even been talked about yet. The recusal of Attorney General Jeff Sessions should not be underestimated. It is some major fallout from the issue of Russian interference in the U.S. election, but it may be just the beginning. The question of whether Sessions' committee committed perjury hasn't been addressed, but the truth is the real question about that interference hasn't even been addressed yet either. Namely, did the Russians work in collusion with Trump associates to win the election?
I have recused myself in the matters that deal with the Trump campaign.
Just 3 weeks after becoming Attorney General, Jeff Sessions has now pulled himself out of any investigations regarding Russian communications with Trump campaign officials and surrogates. That came after the revelation that Sessions had 2 meetings last year with Russia's ambassador to the U.S., who's considered to be one of that country's top spies. Meetings which Sessions never acknowledged when asked about it at his confirmation hearing.
Let me be clear. I never had meetings with Russian operatives or Russian intermediaries about the Trump campaign. And the idea that I was part of a, quote, continuing exchange of information during the campaign between Trump surrogates and intermediaries for the Russian government is totally false.
Sessions was under intense pressure to do something, even from some members of the GOP leadership team at the Capitol, like Bakersfield Congressman Kevin McCarthy, seen here walking behind President Trump on Tuesday night.
I think the trust of the American people, you recuse yourself in these situations.
At Sessions' hearing on January 10th, he unequivocally denied being aware of any contact between Trump campaign surrogates and the Russians, under questioning.
If there is any evidence that anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign communicated with the Russian government in the course of this campaign, what will you do?
Senator Franken, I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it.
But on Thursday,
I was taken aback a little bit about this brand new information, this allegation that surrogates, and I had been called a surrogate for Donald Trump, had been meeting continuously with Russian officials, and that's what I focused my answer on. Retrospect, if I should have slowed down and said, but I did meet one Russian official a couple of times.
LA City Ethics Commission President Jessica Levinson, a professor at Loyola Law School, says Sessions had no choice but to step aside.
I think he was absolutely boxed in as a result of his 2 statements, which were inconsistent. I think it really left him with nowhere else to go. Having said that, I think really this is quite an easy out for him. When you talk about applying for other jobs, if you lie in your job interview, that's going to get you more than just, oh, well, now you can't work on this specific project.
Make America great again.
It was over a year ago, February 2016, when Sessions became the first senator to endorse Donald Trump for president and defended Trump's move toward détente with Russia.
Donald Trump is right. We need to figure out a way to end this cycle of hostility that's putting this country at risk.
In July, Sessions had a conversation with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak at the Republican convention in Cleveland. 2 months later, the two of them had a meeting in Sessions' Capitol Hill office. That was in September. The ambassador initiated the meeting. Less than a month later, U.S. intelligence agencies pointed the finger at the Russians for what they called a series of cyber attacks targeting U.S. election websites, ultimately concluding those attacks were intended to help Donald Trump win the election. And to this day, the FBI counterintelligence unit continues to investigate contacts between Trump associates and Russian operatives. On board the USS Gerald R. Ford, before Sessions recused himself, President Trump grimly endorsed his Attorney General.
Mr. President, do you still have confidence in the Attorney General?
Total.
Mr. President, should Sessions recuse himself from investigations into your campaign in Russia?
I don't think so at all.
When did you first learn that Sessions spoke to the Russian ambassador? Did you know during the campaign?
I don't think he should do that at all.
When were you aware that he spoke to the Russian ambassador?
I wasn't aware at all.
Now, many Republicans are applauding Sessions' recusal and say he had every right to meet with foreign ambassadors as chair of the Senate Armed Services Committee.
In the last couple of years, I've probably met with a high-ranking official of half the countries on the face of the earth.
But meeting with the Russian ambassador? Oklahoma Republican Jim Inhofe has been on the Armed Services Committee for 20 years.
When's the last time you met with the Russian ambassador?
I don't think I ever had.
California Senator Dianne Feinstein is the ranking Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee. She said this about Sessions' faulty testimony on meeting the Russian ambassador.
I do not believe this was the truth. He has recused himself. Now there's an opportunity to move on and hopefully be able to get a special prosecutor, someone of substantial reputation and presence, who is really able to do this free from any conflict or aspersion.
Now, tonight there are new reports of more meetings between Trump campaign associates and the Russian ambassador during and after the campaign. They include former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, advisor Carter Page, and President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. The White House said late today the Kushner get-together wasn't a meeting at all. They say it was an inconsequential hello and nothing more. Jeff, Lena.